We are a welcoming congregation for the LGBTQ community. We affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are active voices in the effort to address climate change. Here at UU Catskills, we have community circle groups who meet monthly either via Zoom or in person at outdoor settings, when the weather permits, that is. Members of the groups live in the same geographical area. You were invited to join them by contacting our office. Contact information for minister, leadership, and the office are on the listing that appears on the screen. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. We are guided by 7 principles and 6 sources that encompass the many ways that we come to know and understand the world, the universe, and the divine. If you are new, we encourage you to visit our website at uucatskills.org. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please give us your email in the chat box or online at uucatskills.org. I remind those of you who are joining us online that during the service, you're encouraged to stay muted. I have a few announcements. Be sure to read our latest newsletter for the upcoming activities at UU Catskills. Some of the following information is available in the most recent weekly update. So it is time to submit your pledge these days. Every year we ask our members to recommit themselves to our UU community through our pledge drive. Pledging is a gift to our values, and the drive funds our operating budget. All information about the pledge drive can be found on our website, uucatskills.org. The Young Adults Group has scheduled a Saturday, March 19th meetup at the drive-through maple sapping event at Maple Ridge Bruderhof Community in Ulster Park. For further information and to sign up, contact Erin Hilgart. Today is the last day to respond to the Racial Justice Survey. Please look for the link in the weekly update. UU Catskills will have a pop-up market fundraiser after our April 3rd service. Vendors will be donating a percentage of their sales to UU Catskills. For more information on that, please check the weekly update. And UU Catskills will have a cleanup day, well, 2 cleanup days actually, on Saturday, April 9th and Sunday, April 10th after the service. The Saturday one is from 10 till 2. The winter has wreaked havoc on our sanctuary grounds, and we need help with our spring cleanup. Bring gloves, boots, and rakes. The Monday night Bible and other books sessions that will be led by Reverend Bob. This is a 3-month series that will be held on the last Monday of the month via Zoom. Reverend Bob will also be leading a UU 101 session on Thursday, March 31st from 7 to 9 p.m. via Zoom. So for further information, again, please you can check the newsletter or you can check the weekly update. After our service today, we invite you to join us online to participate in our breakout rooms where we meet to have virtual coffee and socialize. Visitors are welcome. And I wanted to thank today the people who give their time for this service. Our music today is performed by Bill Lindsay, David Budd, and Constance Rudd. And thanks to our technical support people, Kristen Shara and Pat Hurst. So welcome to UU Catskills. Let us join together in creating a sacred space for our worship together. Our prelude music is called A New Day A-Dawnin', which was written by Bill Lindsay and will be performed by Bill Lindsay and David Budd.
Nighttime comes like a million window shades closing, drawn slowly, inch by inch, until darkness comes. But with darkness comes twinkles. Stars twinkle in the sky. The crescent moon glows, shrouded by thin clouds passing. Leaves rustle in the wind, breaking the stillness of the moment. A faint glance as I close the door and settle in for the night. I know the door will open for the new day dawning. New day dawning, dawning for you. New day dawning, sky so blue. New day dawning, start the new day. New day dawning, the start of every day. New day rising, come feel that heat. New day rising, come feel that heat. New day rising, dawn of those blues. New day rising, put on those walking shoes. New day coming, walking down the street. New day coming, time to start some feet. New day coming, going out that door. New day coming, open up that new door. Well, there's a new day dawning, and it's dawning for you. A new day dawning, and the sky's so blue. New day moving, so don't look back. New day is moving, that you're on the right track. New day dawning, dawning for you. New day dawning, the sky is so blue. All right.
Our thanks to Bill and David. Please, if you have a chalice or a candle, please light it as I light mine. And join me in the chalice lighting words, the candle lighting words, which will be on the screen. We light this chalice in grateful, loving community, even in the darkest of times. May its flame light path to courage, justice, and hope. And please join me in our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy, to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. Our climate change words of wisdom today are from Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, and it's from an article in Time magazine. And the article is called, "We Can't Solve the Climate Crisis Unless Black Lives Matter." Whether it's Hurricane Katrina or air pollution, storms and exposure to toxins cause much greater harm to communities of color. Although, yes, in the longer term, climate change is coming for us all, even if you have a bunker in New Zealand. So it follows that if we're thinking about how to become more resilient to the impacts of climate change, we must focus on the people who are actually the most impacted. And we must understand that it is people from their own communities who are best equipped to lead them. Our opening words today are titled, "We Light This Flame as an Act of Faith," by the Reverend Scott Taylor. We come with our doubts worn out and worn down, wanting, once again, to trust, to believe. That hope is not as fragile as it sometimes seems. That division is not as deep as it sometimes appears. And so we light this flame as an act of faith, a reminder, a redeclaration, a rekindling of the trust that darkness can't ever shut out the light, that kindness is more powerful than we know, that humility and accountability allow us to change, that together we can most certainly bend the arc of this beautiful universe toward justice. Please join in singing "The Oneness of Everything" with Paul Thompson as bass vocal, mixer and editor, and Sam Welsh on keyboard.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind. There find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings, in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past the touch our own are written in the earth ever giving, and now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living, for the oneness of everything. terms define. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
Parable of the Spoons is our story this morning, and it's attributed to Rabbi Chaim of Ram Shishak, as told by Leah Mars in this video.
Let me tell you the parable of the spoons. There once was a mystic who was fascinated by the idea of heaven and hell. One day, in a deep meditation, the mystic came face to face with the creator of the universe. And of course, their first question was, what is the nature of the relationship between heaven, hell, and earth? And the creator of the universe clapped its cosmic hands. And immediately the two were in a room. In the center of this room, there was a round table. And in the center of that table, there was a roaring fire. Over the fire, there was a huge cauldron of a seething stew with a smell so enchanting that the mystic was drawn closer to the table, but not too close, because all around the table, there were sickly, unhealthy, groaning people, each of them with a long spoon, long enough to reach the cauldron in the center of the table, but not long enough to feed themselves. And they all struggled and they tried hard, but they never quite managed. The mystic didn't need to ponder long to understand that this was hell. Instantly, the creator of the universe clapped those cosmic hands again, and they were in a different room, except it was the same room. So much of the room was identical. There was the round table, the roaring fire, the cauldron with that delicious smelling stew in the center, and around it, people seated. But these people looked healthy. They looked happy. In fact, they were laughing and telling each other stories and jokes. Some of them were singing songs. Some of them were just listening attentively. And they also had those same long, overlong spoons. But as they dipped out of the stew, they didn't trouble themselves trying to make that long spoon reach back to their mouths. They simply reached across the table and fed someone else. And when they were hungry, they had the humility and the clarity of mind to open their mouths and let themselves be fed. The mystic didn't have to ponder long to recognize that this was heaven. And the beauty of this story is that it isn't just about heaven and hell as an afterlife idea, but it shows us how we can choose to experience heaven or hell here on earth. And as a matter of fact, this story inspired this song. No one gets to heaven alone, to heaven alone, to heaven alone. No one gets to heaven alone. We get there side by side, side by side, side by side, side by side. We get there side by side. No one heals the world on their own, the world on their own, the world on their own. No one heals the world on their own. We're healing side by side, side by side, side by side, side by side. We're healing side by side. No one does the work on their own, the work on their own, the work on their own. No one does the work on their own. We're working side by side, side by side, side by side, side by side. We're working side by side, side by side, side by side, side by side. We're healing side by side, side by side, side by side, side by side. We get there side by side.
Our words of meditation today and contemplation are from Renewing Faith Eternal by Reverend Dr. Rebecca A. Savage, with permission secured through Soul Matters. Spirit of life, beloved of our hearts, receive our prayer. Holy One, at times our spirits are like dry bones, devoid of moisture, cracked and brittle, weary of life. At times, we feel absent and apart from the rest of the world. We feel cast adrift. People are around us, continuing on and seem to have everything figured out. Spirit of life, nourish our spirits with your cascading love. Remind us that we are held in the sacred, interdependent web of all creation. Remind us that the spark of the divine is within us and radiates out from us, giving life the shape of justice. May we bathe in that which is eternal. May our thirst for life be drenched in your living waters. May our faith be renewed again this day. Amen, and blessed be. Please take a moment to pause and be still. Mhm. Half-plate donations for March will go to Seat Song Farm Low Income and Immigrant Camper Fund. The farm camp at Seat Song Farm provides opportunities for all kids to play in the sun, learn, grow, and have fun in a safe outdoor environment. The farm camp allows children to experience the farm and surrounding creek and woodlands through active, creative, and fun activities. The program nurtures an understanding and deep reverence for our land and the food that it provides, and incorporates the arts to allow us to imagine how the plants, animals, and elements of the farm and wilderness shape and strengthen us, giving us special power. You'll see there on the screen that there are several ways to contribute to UU Catskills for our plate offering this morning. You may donate by texting to the number given, or by going online to uucatskills.org, or by using the phone app Fanco. You can also email it, you can also snail mail your donation to our office address. For our offertory today, Constance Rudd will perform the song The Holy Ground, which was written by Jerry O'Byrne.
I was born on the holy ground, a running boy in fields of clover, and living in the grandeur of my father's land. By the side of the swirling sea, I spent the days of childish wonder, and the rocks I held in my young hands, I never felt them slip away. The sun shone bright upon the waves, and the wind blew high as I was leaving, and I sailed so far away, looking for adventure. But I would not stay where the city streets proclaim so loudly man's endeavors. Though music is a pretty thing in fine company, and the wilderness took my breath away, under a sun that never falters. A man has to find his way where no one ever goes. It was in the South where my new home lay, with a dark-eyed girl and wild horses, with hummingbirds and roses there, in old Mexico. But the winds of change, they blew so far, of liberty and revolution. And it seemed each man heard in his breast the drumming of the nation. It was on the field where the guns did play. I fell there with many another, where the sagebrush grows and the desert wind is blowing freely. I was born on the holy ground, a running boy in fields of clover, living in the grandeur of my father's land.
Thank you, Constance. Our sermon today is titled, In What Shall We Trust? And it's written by the Reverend Mark Ward. We get our sermons for these Soul Matters Sundays through our participation in a Unitarian Universalist Association program called Soul Matters. And we thank the many ministers that provide us with material for these Sundays. Not my words, wonderful words from someone else. The author Brené Brown, who writes on issues of shame and vulnerability, says she was struggling over how she might illustrate the importance of trust in relationships when her school-age daughter offered her a metaphor that she felt worked. Her daughter told her about an upsetting episode at school when friends in her class had shared with others the story of an embarrassing incident that she had told them. The story caused a small uproar in the class when the other students in the class began to make fun of her. The teacher told the students to calm down. As a discipline tool, she had kept a jar of marbles on her desk, teacher, right, agreeing to add marbles when the class behaved well and to remove them when they didn't. When the class was full, she would arrange a treat for the class. As the noise level rose, the teacher warned them that she would start taking marbles from the jar. Brown's daughter, though, said she didn't care. She was mortified and would never trust anyone again. What should Brown say? What would you say? Brown explained to her daughter that trust wasn't something that you turned on and off. It was something more like the marble jar, where we added and subtracted trust based on our experience. One of our goals in life, she said, is to find marble jar friends, people who we find as a rule will add marbles to our jar, who we can depend on to be honest, caring, and fair. As a rule, because we all mess up now and again, but marble jar friends are people who are willing to be vulnerable to us and reach out to us to apologize for the injuries they do. In further research, Brown said she was interested to find that often it was not the big events, but small events that had the most impact on building trust. She recounted a story from the psychologist John Gottman. He told of one night when he was reading in bed, when he got up for a moment just to go to the bathroom. On the way, he walked by his wife, who looked sad. As it is with some of us, his first impulse was to walk by. After all, he was anxious to get back to his book. But he didn't. Instead, he sat next to her and asked, "What's going on with you, babe?" It is in such moments, Brown said, that trust is built. and it reminds us how vital trust is in our lives. We've all known moments when, like Brown's daughter, we're ready to declare that we'll never trust again. But in truth, that is never an option. Trust is essential to our well-being, and we will always find somewhere to place it, even if sometimes that trust has not been earned. Indeed, it is the source of much grief that we extend our trust to unreliable sources, to people who abuse it or disregard it. One of the great lessons of growing up is learning how and when to give our trust, and learning to heal and grow when it has been betrayed. The lessons of trust and relationships apply equally to a deeper sense of trust that underlies how we are present to and find meaning in the world. This is trust at the center of what we call faith. Faith is a word that we often struggle with because it is interpreted in different ways. Years ago, theologian Paul Tillich described faith as a restlessness of the heart, a drive within us triggered by, in his words, our awareness of the infinite of which we are a part, but which, he said, we do not own like a possession. Like trust, faith is integral to our experience as human beings. It has at its heart in a yearning for authenticity, for connection, for at-homeness in the universe. Whether or not, or however we articulate it, faith manifests itself in our lives, in our decisions about how we interact with each other and the natural world. Like trust, it grows and deepens as we grow and evolve. And equally, it can bring us grief when we struggle with betrayal and loss. One historian of religion, Wilfred Cantwell Smith, has argued that faith can cause us grief when it becomes equated with beliefs that are framed as intellectual propositions, dogma that separates us from our experience. Apparently, at some point in our history in the West, religious leaders concluded that the heart was not reliable, that only rigorous intellectual argument could ground faith. Yet this move, he said, removed faith from its original source. Faith, he argued, is not an intellectual proposition, but an emotional, almost visceral affirmation. The religious life, he wrote, begins with faith, and faith is finding within that life something to which one gives one's heart. And we give our hearts only to that which seems to us adequate or promising. In short, that which we trust. Whatever we humans may affirm intellectually, he said, we are ultimately guided, driven by that in which we trust, that in which we have faith. I make my spiritual home in this religious tradition because it is a place where, when you enter, we do not tell you what faith is, supplying you with unchallengeable propositions about the nature of the world, the divine, and all the rest. Instead, we ask you where your heart rests and invite you to deepen and grow your spirit with us. As together we work to understand what is called of each of us in our brief lives to help bring about hope, justice, and peace. It operates in a sense as a kind of marble jar theology, where the faith that each of us brings evolves in each other's company, where we process experiences that test and shape what seems true to us, then offer our hearts to each other, finding in that vulnerability the possibility of awakening to deeper faith. In our lives, we experience epiphanies as well as disappointments and losses, and each of these changes us, often in ways we could not anticipate. And at times, those experiences cause us to let go of once powerful convictions or ways of looking at the world that no longer serve us. In time, as Sharon Salzberg puts it, we learn to trust our own deepest experiences while being held in a community of trust. No matter what we encounter in life, she says, it is faith that enables us to try again, to trust again, to love again. In time, like an ever-filling marble jar, trust grows and deepens. As it does, our awareness awakens, and our awareness is imbued, is colored with meaning. This is how we go about building our heart's true resting place, a place where even amid the storms of life, we have a bedrock trust we can turn to. James Fowler, who we heard from earlier, proposed some years ago that there are identifiable steps, 6 different stages that people move through on the way to fulfilling faith. We begin with the faith of childhood, he said, where we essentially receive what is given. And then as we grow, we have opportunities to widen and deepen our faith, moving toward what he calls a universalizing faith of the widest possible focus. But of course, advancing age doesn't assure us of achieving spiritual maturity. There are any number of reasons why any of us can get stuck at one stage along the way. As Fowler put it, if we are to be companions on the globe, we are in need of good faith, faith sufficiently inclusive to binding ourselves as a human community to each other. Our faith, he said, must name and face that deep-going tendency in us to make ourselves and the extensions of ourselves central in the world. We must somehow link ourselves to communities of shared memory and shared hope with which we join in symbolizing our human condition and in enacting the vision that can animate and give new life. This requires on our part humility, curiosity, and grace to listen and know we have much to learn, to make common cause in gratitude, trusting in the truth of our common destiny. I pondered throughout preparing the sermon over how I might articulate what my own sense of trust has evolved to at this point in my life, how I might frame the conviction that underlies my own hopes, where, in the end, my heart rests. As I've told you before, I begin with trust in the natural world, this glorious, surprising earth, with no need for intervention from afar. And when I look for the foundation of my hope, what guides me, transforms me, awakens me, I find in something that I intuit but cannot prove, yet which consoles me and emboldens me even in the most frightening times. I'm not even sure these are the right words, but let me try. It is that there is present in each of us and among us a profound and generous love of which we are capable. And that in love is the hope of the world. This is, as I said, nothing I can prove. I only know that my heart sings when I act in its behalf, when I let go of my fears, shame, or uncertainties and admit it without reservation into my life. There's a trust that offers no certainty that I won't be hurt or disappointed. Indeed, the vulnerability it demands of me assures that my heart will be broken, and not just once, but over and over again, but never irreparably, and each time opened to new wisdom. I cannot know where it will take me from here, but my heart rests in the conviction that if I can keep it in my sights, and I don't always succeed at that, it will serve me. It will serve me and those I love and those I know and love, and the world, and bring about some small measure of peace in the brief time I have left in this life. So would it be. Please join in singing the song "We Are" by Dr. Isaye Barnwell and the UUA General Assembly 2020. virtual choir.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Our thanks to Dr. Isai Bonwell. Our closing words today are by Marilyn Chandler McIntyre. It's titled, What to Do in the Darkness. Go slowly. Consent to it, but don't wallow in it. Know it as a place of germination and growth. Remember the light. Take an outstretched hand if you find one. Exercise unused senses. Find the path by walking it. Practice trust. Watch for dawn. So mote it be. Join me in saying the words on the screen as we extinguish our chalice, our flames. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of
the light
truth,
of truth,
the
the
warmth of community,
community,
or
or the
the
fire
fire of
of
commitment. These we carry
in our
hearts
heart till
until we are
we are
together again. And Catherine Catabiani will lead us in our sung benediction.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
You're invited to stay and join us in our breakout rooms. You'll be automatically assigned, and visitors are welcome to stay and meet congregation members in the rooms. It'll take a few minutes for it to be set up, but please do join us.